The Silent Watchers. The great celebration halls of Nexus Prime sparkled with lights from 1,000 different worlds. 15 years had passed since the Galactic Union's greatest victory, and tonight marked the anniversary of Earth's final silence. Alien dignitaries from across the galaxy raised their ceremonial cups, toasting the peace that had followed humanity's defeat. Admiral Cross stood at the massive viewing window of his flagship, the Sovereign's Edge, watching the festivities below on the planet's surface. His scaled hands clasped behind his back, the tall Zephyrian commander remembered that day 15 years ago, when Earth's transmissions had simply stopped. No final battle cry, no desperate last message, just silence that stretched across the void like a held breath. "Still thinking about the humans, Admiral?" asked Commander Zora Vex, her reptilian features showing concern as she approached. "They're gone. Their colonies went dark. Their ships stopped moving. Even their automated systems shut down. Whatever plague or internal collapse hit them, it finished what we started." Cross nodded slowly, but something cold twisted in his stomach. He had commanded the fleet that surrounded Earth during those final days, watching for any sign of surrender or retaliation. Instead, they had witnessed something far more unsettling than either. The humans had simply stopped. Their massive cities continued to glow for weeks, then months, but no ships launched, no communications were sent, no response came to any hails or threats. "Perhaps," Cross said quietly, "but I've been a warrior for 70 years. Vex. When an enemy goes silent, they're either dead or planning something terrible." Far from the celebration, in the outer rim of what was once human space, Captain Sarah Chen pressed her face against the cold metal of an observation port. Her small research station, hidden in the shadow of a dead moon, had been monitoring Earth for 15 years. Unlike the rest of the galaxy, she knew humanity wasn't extinct. The readings on her screen showed energy signatures deep within Earth's core that defied explanation. Massive power sources had been growing stronger each year, creating patterns that looked almost organic. Heat blooms appeared and disappeared across the planet's surface like a slow, massive heartbeat. Whatever was happening down there, it was bigger than anything humanity had ever attempted before. "Dr. Webb," she called to the elderly scientist working at the quantum scanner array. "The deep core readings are spiking again. Pattern Omega-7 is activating." Dr. Marcus Webb looked up from his instruments, his weathered face showing both excitement and fear. He had been one of Earth's leading xenobiologists before the war, and he understood better than anyone what the data meant. Humanity hadn't died during those final months of silence. They had been changing. "Sarah," he said, his voice barely above a whisper, "I think it's time. After 15 years of preparation, they're ready to emerge." Deep beneath Earth's surface, in caverns that had been carved not by geological forces, but by machines beyond current understanding, something stirred. The walls pulsed with a soft blue light, and the air hummed with energy that felt almost alive. This was Project Genesis, humanity's final gamble when conventional warfare had failed. The collective consciousness that had once been thousands of individual human minds now spoke with one voice, yet somehow maintained the memories and personalities of each person who had joined it. They had not been consumed or erased, but woven together into something greater than the sum of their parts. The Watchers report celebration among the Star Peoples, the collective observed, its voice echoing through the vast underground chambers. "They believe the gardeners have perished. Then it is time to tend the garden," came the response from deeper chambers, where bioengineered organisms the size of spacecraft slowly opened eyes that had been closed for over a decade. On the edge of Earth's solar system, a Zephyrian patrol consisting of 3 scout ships detected the energy surge. Commander Vex, leading the patrol, felt her blood run cold as her sensors registered power levels that shouldn't be possible from a dead world. "Send word to Admiral Cross immediately," she ordered her communications officer. "Tell him the humans aren't as extinct as we thought." But before the message could be transmitted, something rose from Earth's Pacific Ocean. It wasn't a ship in any traditional sense. The enormous organism was part biological, part technological, its surface shifting between metallic scales and what looked like living tissue. It moved through space without any visible propulsion, bending the fabric of reality around it as it climbed toward the patrol ships. Commander Vex ordered her ships to retreat, but found their engines wouldn't respond. Every system on all three vessels had been gently disabled by fields of energy they couldn't detect or understand. They were being held in place like insects in amber, completely helpless but unharmed. Then came the voice. It spoke directly into their minds, not through their communication systems, carrying with it the weight of patience and power that had been building for 15 years. "Children of the distant stars," the voice said, "warm yet alien, you have watched our world in silence, believing death had claimed us. You were wrong. We chose transformation over destruction, evolution over revenge. Tell your leaders that the gardeners have returned, and the galaxy's garden requires tending." The three patrol ships found themselves gently pushed back toward Zephyrian space, their crews unharmed but forever changed by the encounter. They carried with them sensor data that would terrify military analysts across the galaxy. The energy signatures they had detected suggested that whatever humanity had become, it possessed power levels that dwarfed anything in the known galaxy. Admiral Cross received Commander Vex's report while still standing at his viewing window. The celebration continued below, but he could no longer hear the laughter and music. His mind was focused on the implications of what his officer had experienced. "Send messages to all fleet commanders," he ordered, "full alert status, and contact the Galactic Council immediately. Tell them that our greatest mistake was not destroying humanity when we had the chance. Instead, we gave them 15 years to become something we don't understand." As his flagship prepared to leave Nexus Prime, more reports began flooding in from across the galaxy. Strange energy readings were being detected from dozens of star systems that had been considered dead or uninhabitable. Ancient monitoring stations were suddenly coming online in regions of space that had been empty for centuries. Back on Earth, Dr. Webb and Captain Chen watched through their instruments as more organisms emerged from the planet's oceans, forests, and mountain ranges. Each one was unique, evolved for specific purposes they could only guess at. Some seemed designed for deep space travel, others for planetary engineering, and still others for purposes that defied classification. "They're not just ships," Dr. Webb realized, his scientific mind struggling to process what he was seeing. "They're extensions of the collective itself. Humanity didn't build a fleet, Sarah. They became one. The largest organism, the one that had encountered Commander Vex's patrol, slowly turned toward their hidden station. Despite being millions of kilometers away, both humans felt as though they were being gently observed by something vast and benevolent. "Captain Chen," came a familiar voice through their communication system, though no transmission had been detected. "Dr. Webb, thank you for watching over us during our transformation. Would you like to come home?" Sarah felt tears streaming down her face as she recognized elements of voices she had known before the silence began. Her brother, her former colleagues, her friends who had chosen to join the Project Genesis rather than flee to the Outer Rim. They were still there, still themselves, but also something infinitely more. "The galaxy fears us," she whispered into her communicator. "They think you've become monsters. Fear is natural when facing the unknown," the collective replied gently. "But we are not here to conquer or destroy. The garden has grown wild in our absence, and many species have forgotten how to tend it properly. We offer guidance, not dominance. Evolution, not extinction." As if responding to these words, signals began activating across the galaxy from star systems that had been written off as barren or destroyed. Hidden colonies that had been secretly established by human refugees began broadcasting, revealing that humanity's reach had been far greater than anyone suspected. But these weren't military installations or invasion forces. They were research stations, agricultural centers, and what appeared to be vast biological laboratories. The seeds have been planted across 47 systems, the collective announced, this time broadcasting on frequencies that every spacefaring species would detect. For 15 years, we have been preparing the galaxy for its next phase of evolution. Those who wish to grow beyond their current limitations are welcome to join us. Those who prefer their current existence will be left in peace, but the age of conquest and destruction is ending. The age of cultivation begins now. Sir, his tactical officer reported, we're receiving similar signals from the Centauri Confederacy, the Andorian Republic, and even the hegemony. Every major power is detecting these activations. Some are calling for immediate military response. Cross studied the data, his experienced eye recognizing something that terrified him more than any fleet or weapon. No, he said slowly. This isn't a military expansion. Look at the positioning, the resource allocation, the infrastructure patterns. They're not building for war, Vex. They're building for permanence, for growth. They're preparing to offer other species something we can't even comprehend yet. As the first part of humanity's emergence concluded, the galaxy found itself facing a question that would define the next era of interstellar civilization. The humans had returned, but not as conquerors or refugees. They had become something entirely new, something that challenged every assumption about evolution, consciousness, and the nature of life itself. The calm above Earth had indeed been shattered, but what emerged would not bring war. Instead, it would offer every species in the galaxy a choice that would determine whether they remained as they were or became something greater than they had ever imagined possible. The Garden of Stars. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened on Nexus Prime within hours of humanity's emergence. Representatives from 43 different species filled the great circular chamber, their various forms of anxiety and fear creating a tense atmosphere that translator systems struggled to convey. At the center of the chamber, holographic displays showed the expanding network of human installations across the galaxy. Chancellor Thyros, the ancient crystalline being who had led the council for over 2 centuries, called for order with harmonics that resonated through the chamber. We face an unprecedented situation, the Chancellor announced. The species we believed extinct has not only survived but established a presence in systems across our territory without our knowledge. Admiral Cross stood to address the assembly, his scaled features grim. Honored representatives, I commanded the fleet that witnessed humanity's silence 15 years ago. I can tell you with certainty that what we're facing now is not the same species that we fought before. They have become something beyond our current understanding of biological and technological evolution. Before any representative could respond, the chamber's main communication array activated without authorization. The security systems, designed to prevent any outside interference, showed no signs of intrusion or breach. Yet somehow, a presence had effortlessly connected to their most secure networks. Greetings, children of the distant stars. The voice that filled the chamber was warm, patient, and carried undertones that suggested vast collective consciousness. We are the collective that was once humanity. We come not to threaten or demand, but to offer understanding. A 3-dimensional projection materialized in the center of the chamber, showing not a single individual but a flowing representation of consciousness itself, shifting between forms that suggested multiple species working in harmony. You fear us because you do not understand what we have become, the collective continued. Allow us to explain. 15 years ago, when your fleets surrounded our world, humanity faced extinction. But our greatest minds have been preparing for this moment, working on Project Genesis, an experiment in guided evolution that would transform our species into something capable of surviving in a galaxy that had rejected us. The projection shifted, showing images of the transformation process. Humans willingly joining with advanced artificial intelligences, their consciousness expanded beyond individual limitations while retaining their essential selves. Biological forms that combine the best aspects of multiple species, designed not for warfare, but for exploration, creation, and nurturing life itself. We chose synthesis over separation. Cooperation over competition. The organisms you have detected are not ships or weapons, but extensions of our collective consciousness. Each one is designed to help cultivate life throughout the galaxy, to assist other species in reaching their full potential. Representative Korgs of the Silicon Confederacy, a being of living metal and energy, spoke with calculated skepticism. You speak of cultivation and assistance, but you have established installations in our sovereign space without permission. How do we know this is not conquest disguised as cooperation? To demonstrate, the projection showed real-time footage from one of the hidden installations. What had once been a barren, radiation-scarred planet now bloomed with impossible gardens. Crystalline trees grew alongside organic forests, while creatures that seemed to be living art moved through landscapes that combined the beauty of multiple worlds. Captain Sarah Chen, who had been transported to Earth and integrated into the collective while retaining her individual perspective, addressed the Council through the projection. I was one of the watchers who observed humanity's transformation from the outside. I can tell you that what they offer is not assimilation or conquest, but evolution. Each species would retain its essential nature while gaining capabilities beyond their current limitations. Chancellor Thyrose's crystalline form rang with harmonics of deep concern. But what guarantee do we have that this evolution would not change us beyond recognition? That we would remain ourselves. The same guarantee that I remain Sarah Chen, came the reply. I have access to the knowledge and capabilities of the entire collective, yet I am still the person who watched Earth in silence for 15 years. Evolution enhances, it does not erase. Each of you would become more than you are now, and not less. Admiral Cross, despite his military training and natural suspicion, found himself intrigued by what he was hearing. What do you ask in return for this gift of evolution? Nothing but the willingness to tend the garden together, the collective replied. The galaxy has been divided by competition and conflict for millennia. Species fight over resources that could be created abundantly. Worlds are destroyed in wars that serve no purpose beyond temporary dominance. We offer a different path. Join us in cultivating life instead of destroying it. Help us transform dead worlds into thriving ecosystems. Work with us to solve the challenges that face all sentient life. Commander Vex, who had been present during the first contact with the emerged humanity, stepped forward. I encountered your organisms directly. They could have destroyed my patrol easily, but instead they were gentle, almost protective. If your power is as great as our sensors suggest, why haven't you simply imposed your will on the galaxy? The collective's projection showed what might have been a smile. Because forced evolution is not evolution at all, but conquest wearing a different name. True growth must come from choice, from the desire to become something better. We offer the opportunity, but each species must decide for themselves whether they wish to accept it. To demonstrate their sincerity, the projection showed the 47 hidden installations across the galaxy. In each case, human bioorganisms were working to restore damaged ecosystems, create new forms of sustainable energy, and develop technologies that could benefit multiple species. In systems where other species had established colonies, the human installations were actually providing resources and assistance without revealing themselves. We have been helping you for 15 years without asking for recognition or payment, the collective explained. The improved crop yields on Andorian colonies, the mysterious disappearance of the radiation plague that was killing the Centauri, the stabilization of the unstable star in the hegemony system. These were all our gifts to the galaxy, freely given. The chamber fell silent as representatives processed this information. Their own intelligence networks confirmed many of these mysterious improvements, phenomena they had attributed to natural changes or unknown beneficial forces. Representative Zira of the felinid clans, her feline features showing cunning mixed with curiosity, asked the question many were thinking. And if we refuse your offer? If some species choose to remain as they are, then they will be left in peace, the collective replied without hesitation. The garden has room for many different forms of life. Some flowers bloom in sunlight, others in shadow. Some trees grow tall and proud, Others spread wide and provide shelter. Diversity is strength, not weakness. We seek to add to the galaxy's diversity, not replace it. Dr. Webb, speaking through the collective while maintaining his individual scientific perspective, added, "Evolution is not about becoming the same. It's about becoming the best version of what you already are." A Zephyrian who joined us would become a better Zephyrian, not a human copy. Each species would evolve along paths that honored their essential nature while expanding their capabilities. Chancellor Thyros resonated with deep thoughtfulness. "You offer much, but the decision affects not just our current populations, but all future generations. We must consider carefully." As the session drew to a close, the collective made one final offer. Representatives who wish to witness our work directly are welcome to visit our installations. See for yourselves what we have accomplished and what we offer. Judge our intentions by our actions, not by your fears. Admiral Cross found himself speaking before he realized he had made the decision. "I will go. As the one who led the fleet that witnessed humanity's silence, I should be the one to witness their return." Over the following days, representatives from 12 different species accepted the collective's invitation. What they found challenged every assumption they had held about evolution, technology, and the nature of consciousness itself. The installations were not factories or military bases, but living ecosystems where technology and biology had merged into something beautiful and functional. Species that had been considered incompatible worked together in harmony, their different capabilities complementing each other perfectly. Most surprising of all, they met humans who were still recognizably human despite their transformation. Sarah Chen greeted Admiral Cross personally, showing him through installations where Zephyrian biotechnology had been combined with human ingenuity to create atmospheric processors that could terraform worlds in decades instead of centuries. "We didn't lose ourselves," she explained as they walked through gardens that bloomed with flowers from a dozen different worlds. "We found ourselves. All the things that made us human, our creativity, our stubbornness, our refusal to give up, they're all still here. But now we can share them with others and learn from what makes other species unique." As the visiting representatives returned to their homeworlds, the galaxy began to change. Some species chose to establish formal contact with the collective, beginning the process of guided evolution. Others remained cautious but opened diplomatic channels. A few, predictably, declared the collective a threat and began preparing for war. But the collective had learned patience during 15 years of silence. They continued their work of cultivation and growth, proving through actions rather than words that they offered cooperation, not conquest. Slowly, gradually, the galaxy began to understand that humanity's return marked not the beginning of a new war, but the first chapter of an age where the impossible would become possible, and the barriers between species would dissolve into opportunities for mutual growth. The calm above Earth had shattered, but what emerged would reshape not just human destiny, but the future of every species brave enough to reach for something greater than they had ever imagined possible. The Garden of Stars was vast, and there was room for everyone willing to help it bloom.